Welcome to the Tradie Wife Life podcast, brought to you by Tradies in Business, where we talk to tradie wives about their goals, their challenges, their hopes and dreams, and how their trade business can help with that. Hey listeners, welcome back. We have another fantastic guest episode today. I'm always really excited to take a bit of time before we press record to talk to my guests before just that opportunity to get to know each other a little better, because often we've never even met, and we might do a little bit of stalking and a little bit of research to understand who we're talking to on any given day. But our guest is super, I don't know whether I want to say brave or crazy that they agree to come and talk to me without really knowing anything about me or what we do here at all. I'm thrilled that I get along so well with Jenn yet again. I have a wonderful guest who has already filled me with a bunch of confidence about how many amazing things we're going to talk to today. Jenn Donovan, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Nicole. It's a thrill.
I love it. Jenn, I ask our guests pretty well all the same question when they join me on the show. Who are you, and how on earth did you come to be here talking to me today?
Well, I came to be here to talk to you today because one of your amazing people, Matt, sent me a message via my website. And I have to admit, I did actually respond with, "Oh, sorry, this landed in spam. I'm so sorry to get back to you so late, but I would still love to if there's the opportunity." To which he replied very nicely, "Yes, and no worries, very forgiven." So that's how I came to be here. But who am I? I am Jenn Donovan. I live in the Riverina of New South Wales, actually on the Murray River, so a beautiful part of our country. And I basically live, breathe, sleep, and talk about marketing to anyone who will listen for however long I can chew their ears around marketing. I'm very passionate about marketing, whether that's online, offline. I do have a bit of a soft spot for digital marketing just because I love the stats that you can get. I love numbers. I love the fact that, you can tell so much about, who you're reaching, who you're not reaching, how you're reaching them, et cetera, through digital marketing. But I'm also a really big fan of email marketing. How I got into marketing, I actually started in law. So straight out of school, went into law and did that for about 15 or 16 years. And then as my story goes, my best friend and I had way too much wine to drink one night, and we decided to throw in our corporate jobs and buy ourselves a retail business. We had no experience in retail. We were just a little bit fed up and we wanted to be our own bosses. And that's pretty much where I started what I would call my entrepreneurial journey as a small business owner. And we bought the shop to play shops, to have some fun.
Yeah.
But we soon learnt that, hey, we could actually make a business out of this. And to make a business out of it, one of us had to learn marketing. So that just kind of landed on my shoulders. She was a lot more creative than I was, as far as, stocking the store and doing merchandising and that. I used to get in trouble if I used to try and merchandise. I used to get kicked out. So marketing became my thing. We sold the shop after 7 years, and I went into marketing. I wanted to share what I had learned with other small business owners in rural and regional areas, but also I did a lot of work in the cities as well. And that was about 8 years ago now. So I've been doing it now for 8 years, podcasting weekly to annoy people in their ears. And I love podcasting. And I love being a guest and having guests. So that's how I pretty much ended up here.
This is the best summary I think I've ever had, Jenn. Clearly you are a podcaster. Most people get a bit of stage fright when I ask the question. That's fantastic. Jenn, that's quite a career transition that you have made, although I can see a few parallels, well, at least in my naive mind, between law and marketing and the way we need to create and craft stories at times. Is there anything about your old career that you miss, or have you managed to fulfill all of the ambitions you had in that career by doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, look, I think every now and then I kind of go, oh, law is so, I guess it's in some ways it's so much more simple. Like I find I'm in a small business, I run a marketing business. And pretty much every year I have to reinvent myself. Like, what are my offerings? How am I going to help my clients this year? What's changed? Like AI last year kind of tipped every digital marketer on their butt kind of things. Like, here you go. Here's something else to learn and get your head around and learn how that can help make business simpler. Whereas law just kind of, I guess you're looking backwards, not necessarily forwards a lot of time in law with precedents and things like that. So every now and then I think I'd like to go back, but I think I'm unemployable. Like, I've been my own boss now for about 15 or 16 years, and I think I'm unemployable now. So I'm kind of stuck here trying, doing the marketing thing.
You make an interesting point that the way marketing shifts so very, very quickly. It's Warwick and I, full transparency in Tradies in Business, we've come to this point this year where we've had to throw everything out we've ever done before in terms of our own marketing. And start from scratch. The audience becomes more sophisticated. They look at things differently. They have different pain points at that time that require solving. And so that's been a big transition. And then when I think over to, I have a construction company as well, that's gone really old school. It's totally changed. People don't want to be marketed to in that space so much anymore. Now we've gone back to real referral based marketing options and email marketings. But also some paper stuff like flyers, doing 5 rounds when we're at a particular job. That stuff is having a massive impact. But you make a great point as well. It's really hard to track the data for some of those things. Like, are my team actually popping the flyers into the letterbox that they're telling me that they are? And so I get one lead and I can actually draw back to, well, we've put out 5,000 flyers, but I only got one lead. So it's really not a marketing structure I want to follow. Whereas the social media marketing or the email marketing, I get lots of information. The point I'm really trying to make here, though, is the way in which the marketplace just shifts really quickly. And I imagine you being at the forefront, you'd have to work really hard to be very educated on what's coming up with the changes, trying to be at the front foot.
Yeah, you do. But, to be totally honest, Nicole, most of the time you only need to be like 2 steps ahead.
Yeah.
Like, AI came about, it was something that I'd been kind of dabbling in a little bit in November 2022. Come January 2023, we all learnt what ChatGPT was, and boom, it was kind of like, right, who can teach us the most on ChatGPT? But I was learning too, but my clients were 2 steps behind me. So it was kind of like, and, I was really transparent about that. I don't know everything. No one knows everything. Like, anyone who tells you they know it all, don't work with them. They're just fooling you. But, I just needed to know enough to kind of share what I knew. Threads, for instance, was a really great example of that. The new social media platform that Instagram put out about, was it about July or June last year?
Yeah.
And like, basically overnight people became thread experts, and it was kind of hilarious in some ways, but really all they were doing was they knew 1 or 2 more things that you didn't, that could help you grow your business. And I think if we look at tech a little bit, or the fast pace of marketing going like that, then that's how we can kind of keep ahead of trends. But you've got to be a lifelong learner at the end of the day. But it was interesting what you were saying about the flyers, though. Like, one of the biggest marketing strategies I think that works at the moment, that not enough people do, and maybe that's why it works so well, is that bulky mail.
Yeah.
Like, sending something out that is kind of like an envelope. Like, imagine getting a bright pink or a bright yellow envelope in your mailbox. 100% open rate absolutely is going to happen, because no one gets that anymore. But of course, depends what the lump is in the mail, or depends on what it says as to whether or not you get, the return on your investment. But you will get 100% open rate on a bright yellow envelope, guaranteed.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I had 100% open rate on an email that I sent. In fact,
No.
30% open rate. So I might need to take a bit of that lesson myself. But sometimes it's the simple strategies, and it's, if you look at, well, for me, looking at the marketplace is trying to avoid what everybody else is doing a lot of. In my experience, when they're in a space of, well, I'll use coaching for an example, so that I'm not talking disparagingly about any other area of marketing. I'll use coaching, and in our space, lots and lots of people are using very well produced video that is extremely attractive. It almost looks like a music video, and they're highly engaging. and they tend to hit about the 90-second mark. They're almost like a mini film.
Mm-hmm.
So we went ahead and we did that ourselves. We set it all up. We hired a studio. We created some really beautiful cinematography with great scripts, and it was a lot of fun. And it really didn't work. And I believe it didn't work because so many of our consumers were being taught how to consume that content without necessarily taking the next step. It didn't feel gritty enough for them. So in
I
our
think it
case,
probably felt unauthentic to them as well.
100%,
That's not your story. That's not your brand. And I
absolutely.
think that is why it probably didn't resonate. Like the people that are doing it, and if they're always polished and if they're always doing those sorts of videos, then that becomes part of their brand. And so therefore it works for them. But
Yes.
it's a bit like me, you know, I live on a farm. I operate out of my home office on the farm. Like if I start getting too polished, my friends and my work colleagues will be like, "What are you doing, Jen? This isn't you."
So
So it's like being like, I know authentic is this word that keeps being thrown around that feels a little bit murky these days, but it is the truth. Like, if you see me in person, I'll possibly look the same if I'm having a good day. If I'm at the supermarket after the gym, I probably won't. But, you know, I'll look the same and I'll sound the same because
yeah.
that's who I am and that's the way I show up. So I think that probably was off brand for you.
Totally. And when we took it back to our normal strategy of iPhone videos and just continuing to do what we normally do, of course, we had far higher traction.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think that's the best parallel. It's the aim of marketing for us is to introduce ourselves to a new audience and then establish know, like, and trust. Very similar
Hmm.
for most businesses. They can't do that when it's inauthentic, as you've clearly pointed out. And so
Yeah.
when we get back to the gritty stuff and it's the real stuff and it looks like us and it's not polished because that's not our brand, we're not polished.
Yeah.
It has given them the opportunity for that know, like, and trust in the very early days, and it produces a result that we weren't necessarily getting before. It also brought us away from the competition, so we were playing in a different field.
Mm.
People were looking at us very differently to all the other competition because they were seeing this mass produced beautiful stuff that for some of them was on brand and some of them it isn't, but it all began to look a bit same. There was no point of
Mhm.
difference from us. We may have been
Mhm.
saying something different, but most people don't listen to the videos, and it's a bit hard at times to keep up with the subtitles at the bottom of the screen, of course. So
Mhm.
it meant that we were really pointing out our point of difference, and that is the voice that we have, the way that we work with people. So I think you've drawn a great parallel there, Jen, as I would expect, given how fantastic you are at marketing.
But it's about branding, but it's also about knowing your ideal client. Like if you are putting out something posh and polished and you're trying to get tradies who, you know, love people like, you know, the pub test potentially, are you the type of person I'd like to have, you know, a drink with after work? Like that for them, like you almost don't know your ideal client if you are going along those lines either. Maybe they're going for, you know, some more corporate clients and more corporate in the tradie industry. I'm not sure. But again, like you've got to make content that your ideal client wants to do, not the content that you think that you should be doing.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Jen, when we think about a tradie, lots of them don't even understand the concept of an ideal client. Like it becomes quite scary for them to start to think of how they've got to narrow down their view on an ideal client. I'd like to put aside the fear factor around niching today and come back to the power of understanding what your niche could be and how important that is to your marketing. Could you talk us through, firstly, perhaps some simple steps on how to identify who your ideal client is and then why that information is important?
Yeah, yeah. So I think the first thing to understand is if you niche or if you have an ideal client, it doesn't mean you're not going to attract anybody else. It just means that's who your message is for. Because if you're talking to one person, obviously that message is going to be more well heard. I don't even think that's proper English. I'm sorry.
It's
But
very welcome
it's
here.
but it's going to really resonate with that I guess ideal client, that group of ideal clients, but it doesn't mean you're not going to attract somebody else. So I think the fear of niching needs to be taken away in that it's about messaging. It's not necessarily about only attracting that one person or that one type of person. So for me, I guess the easiest way to think about your ideal client is basically to close your eyes and think about the people that you want to work more with. Who are those people that when you close your eyes, you smile and you think, I want more of that person. They pay on time, they are nice, their jobs are good. For me, my husband's a diesel mechanic. It would be like they wash their truck before they bring it in. It's not covered in cow poo. It's all those sorts of things. Then thinking about who that ideal client is, and then start to sort of write down, well, what does that mean? Why do you want more of those people? And what sort of demographics are they? What keeps them awake at night? Are they male? Are they female? What sort of income do they have? And some of these are assumptions, absolutely. You can only assume how much money you think they are earning. Do they have dependents? Are they a longevity client or are they a one-off client? Do you think that if you did a really good job for that client, that they've actually got a really good network and the referrals that would come from doing a great job for that client would actually far outweigh, just thinking, well, it's only a one-off job or something like that. So I think it is time. You've got to give yourself that time and that space to think about that person. And then, of course, for me, the three big questions are, who is your who? So who's your ideal client? Where do they hang out? So where do they go? Where can you market to them? And then what do you want to be famous for? Like, we're not talking Kardashian famous, but what do you want to be known for? When people think marketing strategy, I want them to think Jenn Donovan. When people think of, the person who talks about marketing for rural and regional Australia, I want them to think me. Like, they're the things I want to be famous for. Yes, I'm known for lots of other things, but that is what I want to be known for. So what do you want to be known for? But where do they hang out? That, of course, becomes a really important question then, because we can't just be on TikTok because everyone else is on TikTok if our ideal client isn't on TikTok. So I think when a lot of people find, my marketing's not working, it really is coming back to that basic question is, well, who is your who? Because you might have the best marketing in the world, but if they're not there to see it, it's never going to work.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. I wonder, how do people figure out where their people hang out? Like, it's really easy for me. You and I could sit here and have this amazing, intelligent conversation about all the things we know about marketing. And it's not going to answer some of those real essential questions that I think that often get missed. And I have this tendency to talk about what I know without thinking about what somebody else might not know. So we've spoken about how they understand who the right person is, but then how do they take the information that they have about who they are and figure out where they're hanging out?
Yeah. So again, some of it needs to be assumptions. Some of it, if you talk to your clients, you can listen to their language. Like if you're talking to an ideal client, even if they haven't spent money with you yet, but you think they are, likely to be an ideal client in that realm, do they say, I was listening to a podcast the other day, or, I was on Facebook the other day, or I was, on LinkedIn, or I was, in a group, or did you see that article in the newspaper? That was really good or really crap. Or just try to listen to their language during conversations. The other thing would be if you have an existing audience or an existing community. Really, at the end of the day, we're not building audiences, we're building communities, because, an audience is something you talk at, a community is something you're involved in. But if you've got an existing community, survey them, poll them. Have you got the means to do that? Do you listen to podcasts? Do you read blogs? Where would you go to, find the information you want? Would you go to search social media? Would you go to search Google? Would you use Pinterest? Would you go to YouTube? And start to maybe try and get some information from them. Sometimes we are our own ideal client and we start there and we go, well, actually, I listen to podcasts because I'm listening to this one. So maybe they listen to podcasts. So maybe audio is the way to go rather than video. Or if I do video, I need captions because I know that they quite enjoy audio. and don't necessarily have time to watch the video. Yeah, so sometimes it's research. At the end of the day, it's not going to come to you, you know, there's no magic way of making it come to you. It is research, and it's consistent research. I know coming out of, the pandemic that we never speak about anymore, it was kind of like, if you haven't changed your ideal client, then you are behind the eight ball already, because everyone changed then. We're going through a financial crisis at the moment. Your ideal client has changed. What they're willing to spend money on, whether it's gone up or down, depends, of course, on their life and their lifestyle, but it's changed. So it is a consistent rolling ball in some ways. And I'm not trying to make that sound complicated, but we do need to keep an eye on it, and we need to listen, I guess, listen to learn rather than listen to speak in some ways.
Oh, I love that one. Listen to learn rather than listen to speak. It is evolving. I agree. And there's a very simple way to figure out what's working and what's not. It's testing and measuring. And I don't think it's spoken enough about in the industry, because
Yeah.
in my experience, I'll talk about my experience through our clients. I've had lots of clients go off and work with marketers. Generally, in our areas, it's someone who's working on their website or their SEO, for example. And our clients are sold a beautiful, lofty dream of what might be possible. And I agree, it might be possible. But the problem is there is confusion around the testing and measuring. So they never really get a great understanding of whether that concept is actually working for them in their business or not. And so I wonder, Jen, if there's some basic ideas around that data that you were talking about earlier, those numbers. What numbers should we be tracking? And how do we make a great decision based on those numbers?
Yeah. Fantastic questions. Thank you. I guess I just wanted to just say something about, potentially paying other people to do things like SEO and social media and all those sorts of things. I do some work through a government program that I've got a contract with, and I had a lady come just on Tuesday, I think it was, and she was talking about some SEO. So she's getting some SEO done, some paid marketing, paid SEO done on her website. And I was starting to ask her metrics, and her answer all the time was, I don't know. I don't know. Well, what keywords are they going for? I don't know. And I said, you need to go back to them and tell them if they can't explain this to a 6-year-old, you're sacking them. Because sometimes marketers, we're not all good people. Sometimes we use big words, we use big titles, and we use lots of information to confuse you, to make you think we're doing a great job and we're worth our money. And then you walk away and you're like, I have no idea what that was about. I'll just keep paying because I think it's working.
Yes.
So if your listener is in that boat, please make sure they can explain it to a 6-year-old. Make sure you absolutely understand what return on investment you're getting if you're paying someone to do your marketing. That's my high horse.
I like your high horse, Jen. I very much enjoy. I'd like to ride on the back of your high horse, if that's okay.
So as far as what metrics you should be looking for, I guess it depends a little bit on where you are marketing. So I would say for a lot of tradies, and, please correct me if I've got this wrong, but I would say Google is fairly important. And therefore, looking at Instagram hashtag figures as to how many people found you on a hashtag mightn't be quite as important as looking at your Google Analytics and having a look at behavior. Like, when someone landed on your website, what pages did they have a look at? How long did they stay on there? Learning about your audience. You might be getting lots of impressions on your website, but you have a look at the data and it's like, they're all from South Africa. Well, that's not going to work because, I'm a tradie in Ballarat and I don't work in South Africa. Like, it's looking, for me, if you're looking at Google data, it's, your audience, it's looking at how they got there and what they did when they got there. So those sort of three things to look at. And if you're listening to this and you're like, that sounds good, Jen, but I still don't know what that means, go to YouTube and type in Google Analytics for beginners or Google Analytics for dummies, insert your website. So WordPress, Wix, whatever your website is built on, and spend 5 minutes, watching a YouTube video and learning a little bit. Make sure the video is kind of current because, like everything, it moves quite quickly. Buttons might change and you might be like, I can't find that button. Yeah, so, I guess be a lifelong learner and look for the answers yourself. If you're on social media, look at your insights. You spend time once a month, once a fortnight going into the tab that says insights and having a look. How many people did you reach? What content worked the best? Every time I put up a sales post, I get crickets, but every time I put up a funny saying, I get 300 likes. Beautiful. So you can't put up more sayings, but you could put up a saying and then very quickly, while the algorithm's still loving you, put in a sales post and try and get more traction that way.
Yes.
So that's kind of using the data to kind of work out what your strategy is in some ways.
I hate to admit I'm a closet nerd when it comes to marketing data. Actually, there's some good business data that I love because it's so powerful in how we can generate the right next step for us in our business through that data. Because I think there's a lot of assumptions made that, and perhaps once upon a time it even worked. You could set and forget your marketing. It doesn't work anymore. And for most of us, our audiences change. You really clearly identified that shift that happened after COVID. And now we're having another shift as the economy is moving and changing. And I think if we're still using the strategies that we always worked, like we have lots of clients tell us word of mouth still works really well for them. That's fantastic, but you can't turn that on and off. And it's actually really hard to get the data from word of mouth. Referral-based marketing is fantastic. We should all have some semblance of that within our marketing strategies. But if we can't turn it on and off and we can't gather the data required, we can't make the decisions as a business owner that we need to make. So I love that you also like data. I'm not surprised that we get along so well. Marketing is one of my most favorite parts of business. Jen, can you share with us? So thinking about the audience, we're trade business owners. Most of us are working locally. Many of our listeners are rural, which is going to be right up your alley. I can see it already. Can you give us an idea on perhaps 3 great value for money strategies that every trade business should be considering as part of their marketing plan?
There's a big question on the spot. Let me have a bit of a think about that one. So for the first one I would come up with is obviously a Google presence of some description. If you aren't on Google, are you even a business? Like, I know referral marketing is great. And, maybe there's some people out there who don't have a digital presence and rely completely on referral marketing. I would say that's fantastic until it's not. And when it's not, you are going to hurt like there's no hurt tomorrow type of thing. So some sort of Google presence. So there used to be a thing called Google My Business. I think it's called Google Business Profile now. They keep changing the name just to muck up all my content. But get on there, go to Google Business Profile, set it up. It's perfect for local SEO. And when I say set it up, really set it up. Go through every single step there is and fill out those steps. Make sure, and if you've got it, make sure your phone number is still the same. Make sure the email address is there. Make sure the website, hasn't broken and it still clicks. Make sure your opening hours is still there. Use it like a social media platform. You can actually post to it. So you can use a post from social media and put it into the Google Business Profile, especially if it's keyworded and, will help with your rankings. So that's definitely something I would do for local SEO. Is to make sure you have that set up. There's also a Q&A section. Fill it out yourself or get a couple of mates to ask the top 10 questions that you hear all the time. Fill it out. It's good for Google love. Google-icious stuff is what we're after here because people literally will type in, that such and such tradie in Cranbourne, in Yarrawonga, in Shepparton. Like, people are looking for that local SEO because as the searcher, I don't want an electrician that's coming from Darwin. I want them local to me. So that's one good thing that I would do. I would make sure that your social media profiles are up to date and really obvious where you are. If your work is only local, then make sure that people know where you are. There's nothing as a marketer that drives me more batty than if I go to someone's Facebook or Instagram, not so much LinkedIn, because the profile I think works a little bit better over there. And I'm kind of like, where are you? And what is your name? Because, it's kind of like Yarrawonga Electrical Company. And it's like, great. So when I pick up the phone to ring you, if I knew it was Greg, it's like, hey, Greg, Jenn Donovan speaking. How you going? Like, it just becomes so much more personable. It's kind of that human to human marketing that you can do is so important, because you live in these communities quite possibly. And, the way to get known is to, use your human side, make sure people know your name, all of that sort of thing. So I would go and check out my profiles and make sure, A, they know I'm local, B, my name is there somewhere. Even if it's not in your business name, put it in your bio, or sign off your social media post, Sam or something like that. So we get the gist of who it is behind that business, because it matters.
Yeah.
If you want more referral marketing, it matters. So that would be the next thing that I would do. And look, the third thing would be around that nurturing of new leads. So if you've got new leads, how do you nurture those leads? So whether that's something like email marketing, but I get that, tradies are often busy unless you have someone dedicated to that marketing. Sometimes it's hard to do that email, but is there something you can do that's a little bit nifty and different in your invoices? I wrote a book last year called Small Town Big Impact, and it's got 107 simple marketing strategies for regional businesses in it. And one of them is, okay, so you send an invoice out. What marketing is in your invoice? Is, where you get to write the notes, is there a little piece of marketing or a little piece of, maybe it's a dad joke, or maybe, it's something kind of branded to you, but it's kind of like, here's your invoice and here's a bit of a chuckle because that's kind of on brand with me. Or here's your invoice and I'm supporting another small business by telling you about this other great business in the notes that I dealt with just recently. So you can do those, look for the little 1%ers that you can do in your business that you're already doing now. You could just make them a little bit more human to human, or you could make them a little bit more marketing like.
Oh, they are absolutely gold strategies. I have never thought in all of my time marketing, I've never thought about the opportunity on an invoice. That is just a killer strategy. It's such a simple one too, that can be set up, done. And it's just impactful. It's not something that you think about we all have the same bog standard stuff on our invoice, and we don't think about the impact that we can have when we're a little bit different. This is why we need you, Jenn Donovan. We cannot do this stuff on our own. Jenn, when we're playing around on Facebook, so tradies see, actually this probably is the same for many industries. I see a lot of posts in local area Facebook groups asking for the best tradesperson that is the cheapest. And I reckon this would be the same in most industries now. I think about it a bit more broadly, but clearly my lens is very sharp for tradespeople. I wonder, is it worthwhile us playing around in those local groups that we all have for our suburbs or our localities within Facebook? And if we have an opportunity like that, is there a way that we can address and dispel concerns about quality versus cost when those questions are asked that might help elevate us and stand us out from the crowd?
Yeah, I think that is worth playing around in those groups, but I think it's kind of a little bit if you, and again, I know I'm talking to busy people and I'm saying, more time for marketing. And you're probably thinking, be quiet, please. I don't have more time. But for me, it is the give, ask.
Yes.
So it's not going into these groups and saying, buy me, buy me, buy me, once a week or twice a week. It is that give, ask. So maybe there's a new government program that relates to your industry. Share that in the group. Just thought, this is such a good article. You could get $2,000 if you shut off your floor heating, blah, blah, blah. But it comes under your name. So it's kind of, that top of mind marketing, but you're giving rather than asking type of thing. Yeah, there might be a call to action. Give me a call if you've got any questions or something like that. But it's not just a sell thing. And maybe in those posts where, people's like, oh, I need an electrician tomorrow and he needs to do it for $50, and someone tags your business, respond to that and just say, thanks so much, John, for the tag. I love that you want to support my business. Unfortunately, I'm not the cheapest, but I could possibly be the best.
Love
And
it.
just kind of leave it at that. Just kind of, people will be kind of like, oh, okay. They're not, scrambling for, money or,
Mm.
because people tag you in these things out of the goodness of their heart. What they are trying to do is take referral marketing online, and they think that, someone wants an electrician. Oh, I know a good electrician. I'll tag them.
Yeah.
Whereas, for the electrician, it's kind of like, I've got 6 months worth of work. I can't do it tomorrow. And I'm certainly not doing it for $50. But rather than ignore it, say thank you, but just say, look, that job's not for me. I'm not the cheapest, but I could be the best. Or, have a bit of a play with the words sort of thing. But yeah, I definitely think it is, because I think that is one of the places someone will go when they do want an electrician. I know, I live on a farm. I can't get a housekeeper. I'd love a housekeeper, a couple of hours a week. I go through them because, they get here and they're kind of like, oh, you live a long way out. So it's like, well, I don't actually live a long way out. It's only like 10 minutes, but I see your point. And I've had a run of amazing house cleaners that keep getting pregnant on me and then they
Oh
leave. I
no.
think it's maybe something in my water. I'm not really
Coffee.
sure. But I go to those groups and I literally type in housekeeper and I see who has advertised in there that, they're looking for some work, some housekeeping work or something like that. So people will use those groups. And I think if you're in there with that positive spin, with the give, ask, I think that, it could be a winner.
I love it. Absolutely love it. You've prompted another question in me that I don't know that I've ever asked in any format from any marketer before, and I'm going to lead you up the path.
Yes.
I think it's a good one. Bad reviews. I see so much fear out there about bad reviews, and yet if we're playing out there in the digital space, we're nearly all going to end up with a bad review at one time or another. Jen, is a bad review an opportunity for good marketing?
It definitely is a good opportunity for marketing, but it's got to be the right opportunity. So I have seen them go pear-shaped very, very quickly. So it's kind of like a get in and get out type of scenario. You've got to qualify the bad review as well. Like, unfortunately, there are some bots out there that leave bad reviews that really this person's never worked with me or anything like that. That's when you can report it, whether it's to Google or to Facebook, and ask them to remove it. They may or may not. It may take 10 years for them to do it, but hopefully they will do it. If it's someone who is really bagging you out, potentially respond to them in the kindest, kill them with kindness type of thing, but something short and sharp,
Mm.
and leave it at that. Because to be honest, like, if you're going to book a motel on, Airbnb and you come across someone who's left a bad review, you can tell whether they're genuine or just a whinger. Like, and you're kind of like, really? That was your biggest problem? That's not going to put me off booking that. And I think it's the same with bad reviews for small business. Some people are just nasty, horrible people. And most people who will want to do business with you will see that person for being a nasty, horrible person. And it's not really a true reflection of your business. So I would always try and respond to them as long as they're not spam, but never respond twice. If you
No.
respond and they come back at you, that's it. You have got to go and scream in your bathroom or go and chop down a tree or whatever you want to do to get away out of that frustration. But do not engage a second time, because that is where you can become the a-hole rather than them.
I don't think there's a better piece of advice through this whole podcast than that. I've seen it done really, really well. And then I've told the story before about trying to book a winery tour in South Australia. And I came across what I thought was going to be the best tour. I just thought it was fantastic. I don't often read reviews, but this one had a number of negative reviews. And I thought, I should probably check it out and see whether there's any merit to the negative reviews, if you like. It wasn't so much the negative reviews that I had a problem with. It was the way they were answered that I had a problem with. the gentleman that was running the company, and I believe they're still in operation, so somehow he clearly provides a great experience to many people, but he was so aggressive in his response to the negative reviews and very blamey back to the person that was leaving the review when they were reasonable concerns for somebody at a particular time. And so I don't think it could be clearly stated enough or enough times that it's great to answer and it's great to be professional. And in fact, it's very important because people want to see that you're responding and taking ownership to a negative situation. But don't come back and do it a second time. Do not get into an argument on social media with anyone from a business perspective. There's no quicker way to kill your company.
No, that's right. And remember to reply to positive ones as well.
Yes.
Like make sure you reply to positive ones. And a bit of a life lesson that I was taught many years ago that I guess I could share here is there are two types of sorry. It's sorry you feel like that and sorry I did something wrong.
Yes.
So sorry you feel like that is the sorry we are doing for bad reviews, not sorry I did something wrong by you, because quite possibly you probably don't think you did anything wrong. But there are two types of sorry. So going in with, I'm so sorry you feel like that, or so sorry you had that experience is very different to going, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Like qualify your sorry.
Jenn, you have been a fountain of knowledge. I feel like I could sit here and talk to you all day long. Marketing is my favorite subject around business because it's just so powerful. We have such an opportunity to create great outcomes for our business through what we're saying.
Absolutely.
Marketing. If our listeners would like to know more about you, you have your own fantastic podcast and you have lots of opportunities for them to get to know you over on all your various forms of media and advertising. Can you tell us a little bit about where they should find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my podcast is called Small Business Made Simple. And my website is socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. And I'm kind of the person who likes to, it says what it is on the box, Small Business Made Simple. Guess what the podcast is about? Social media and marketing is my business. Guess what it's about? So they're the two places that you can find me. My new book is on there, Small Town, Big Impact. So whether you're rural or regional or city-based, that book with 107 different strategies might take you outside your Facebook comfort zone into trying other marketing strategies. Otherwise, I'm pretty much Jenn Donovan, Jenn with 2 N's, on all social media platforms. And I would absolutely love for you to send me a DM or, come for the journey of marketing.
Love that, Jenn. We'll make sure all of the links are in the show notes for our listeners.
Thank
if you're
you.
struggling to find you, I found you in 2 seconds. So I reckon everyone else would, because why? You're a fantastic marketer and you do what you say. Thank you so very much for joining me. It was an absolute pleasure to talk with you today.
Oh, thank you. They were some good questions, Nicole. Thank you so much. That was a great chat.
Thank you.